Chapter 3. Introduction of foreign species during colonization and aftermath.
Foreign endemic plants replacing endemic plants from Peru during the colonization, which is like one of the many changes that happened here. But basically, when the shamans, known as shamans, were developing the rituals, they used some of the plants that for the Spanish were forbidden. Whatever it is that you were using in order to worship a deity that had no connection with the deities in the Bible had to be banned. So, for example, there's a plant that until nowadays, it makes me feel proud of the people from the highlands, because until nowadays they recommend that plant instead of eucaliptus, but they both work for the same sicknesses that you may have when you get to the highlands, 4,000 meters up on the sea level. For sure, you're going to be running out of air. And yeah, you are. And then, but it's okay. I mean, they have the cure. There's a plant called munya. So it grows everywhere, and you can easily recognize it because the green is just so intense. You take the plant, you wrap it like this, take a deep breath. It's going to get to your lung, and the freshness of it, the mintness of it, is going to swell your lungs, and it's going to make more room for you to, inhale the air that you need up on 4,000 up to 5,000 meters up on the sea level. But during the times of the colonization, a plant endemic from Australia was introduced here, and it's called the eucaliptus. Until nowadays, it's very common to use eucaliptus, especially like if you have asthma and stuff like that. It's not that common, for example, in the capital to use munya, but if you go to the highlands, it's everywhere there. And this is in a way or another how we start changing our plants, but how they make the selection of the plants that were not going to be used by anybody. It was because during the ceremonies of rituals to worship deities that had no connection with the Catholic deities, they saw the plants that we use, coca leaves and many others, munya, for example. And they said, these plants are demoniac, diabolic, I don't know, and we cannot use them anymore. So not only that, but many other plants, including the cactus, was banned from this very land. And some species could survive, some species couldn't survive, but the result of it is the symbiosis of Western endemic plants and local endemic plants mixed in one. For example, the munya, it has the same effect as the eucalyptus. It's stronger because of the mintness, but you can use munya or mint, you will have the same effect, but it's not going to be an endemic plant. So they start mixing them natural medicine with our natural medicine in order to battle the same sickness, but with different plants. It's one of the few changes. Let's jump to the next chapter.
1. Western illnesses were treated with new botanic mixtures.
So during the introduction of the new species that came from the Western world in the 1532, it's actually quite interesting how until nowadays in the highlands, they try to defend the heritage. They say that the Inka heritage, the pre-Inka heritage, when they promote the plants that they use since long time ago, something that comes from one generation to another generation, just like I show you with the emolientero. Same deal here when tourists come to, let's say, the most known part in the highlands, Cusco, and they have a altitude sickness, they give munya, which is like the mint Andean version of the mint that is original from Europe. And but it became mostly popular to use eucaliptus. The eucaliptus came here during the 1532. It's not original from Peru, but it became quite popular to cure some sicknesses like asthma and respiratory sicknesses. And the munya, just like it had to step aside. But until nowadays, if you're walking on the highlands and you're feeling like you're running out of air, for sure the guide is going to take some munya. It's going to rub it. You can inhale it, keep it in your lungs, and the mintness, I don't know if that's a word, let's just call it the mintness. It's just like the freshness of the plant into your lungs is going to swell them, and it's going to allow you to have more space for air. So just to give you an idea of one of the plants that had to be shadowed by another plant that had no connection with the heritage here in Peru. Go to the next chapter.
2. Introduction of religious deities into secret rituals, syncretism.
At the beginning of the exposition, I show you some erotic pottery, and to give you an idea of how connected pre-Inca cultures were to the human needs, and they actually worshipped this and they showed it to everybody. Anybody knew about it. There was no taboo in between, but everything completely changed during the 1532, because not only it was seen as an obscene thing for the Catholic religion, but it was mostly seen as worshipping of the pagan rituals that for sure were taking place during the solstice, the equinox, the full moon, and so forth. Now, during these rituals, they also had to ingest, hallucinogenic plants and everything. We talked enough and long already about it. But on top of that, they introduced some plants that make you feel some sensations. Like when I was talking about the sensitive, the part of the emotions throughout the smell of the flowers of the plants. One smell can bring you back to one time of your life that you were happy, or it's going to have some sort of regression. So this is exactly what they use in order to influence the mind of people during the trances. For example, the shopping culture, they were drinking the cactus, but on top of that, they were influencing them with the sound system, the hydraulic sound system. On top of that, they ingest other plants, and these plants were selected as to be the banned plants. Nobody could use these plants anymore because these plants were used in order to worship deities that had no connection with the Catholic religion. So these rituals were banned, but with the time, and actually it was during the 1532, but secretly we start worshiping deities that, the symbol of the deity had no connection with a real deity, but if you didn't worship that deity, you were going to get killed. So you have to play along. Let's say that, for example, we worship the sun. We worship the sun. This is our God, and this is the symbol of the sun. But then I get there during the colonization and say, no, you're not going to worship this anymore. You're going to worship this. This is your God. So I'm going to worship this, but thinking that this is this. And that is the beginning of syncretism. Until nowadays, you can see that, for example, shamans talk about saints, Catholic saints, Jesus Christ, God, and all of the characters in the Bible. But they mix it with some deities and gods related to the moon, the sun, solstice, equinox, the stars, the constellations. There were some gods there. And they also talk about these gods in order to transmit the feeling that the power of the Mother Nature plus the boost power of the Catholic religion is going to save you from that sickness, or so forth. Now, the whole shamanic rituals nowadays is called the mesa, or it's like a bathing flowering. You bathe in a conglomeration of flowers and herbs that you boiled, and you just bathe on it. The smell is going to fill you purify, and everything works as a placebo, to be true to you. But it depends on, if you make it with faith, for sure you're going to have a better effect in the process. On top of that, after the colonization, when we fought for the independence, and we are in it, there were many plants that at that time, talking about the 1700s, they were already banished. They were banned since the 1532 because of, they were used for some pagan rituals. Well, they call pagan rituals, and we couldn't find more of these flowers. And that hence, for example, the reason why for the Cupisnique culture, this fruit called warea, we believe it is called a warea. We don't exactly know if it is called a warea, but the things that we have found indicate that because of the morphology, this is what perhaps the Cupisnique culture was ingesting in order to get to this mind state where they could communicate to the deities, to the astrological deities. Anyways, the result of it is that until nowadays, we develop these shamanic rituals with shamans, and we introduce the deities, Catholic real deities, and the Inka deities. But no problem at all. This is called syncretism. And syncretism is something that you're going to see in many places. For example, when you get to Cusco and you get to the Cathedral of Cusco, you're going to find the Last Supper, it's Jesus Christ with all the apostles. And normally, Jesus Christ has bread and wine and some fruits. Well, here is a classic dish to eat in the highlands, especially in the highlands. It's called a guinea pig. They eat guinea pig there. It's a traditional dish. So it's the Last Supper, and Jesus Christ, in front of him, instead of bread, he has a guinea pig. That is syncretism. But many other things. For example, he has a sun there and a moon over here. So all of the things is part of the syncretism that we have nowadays. And I will dare to say that is part of what Peru it's all about, because the meaning of the word Peru, that until nowadays, it has no meaning. I mean, there's not an etymology about it. For me, it's a feeling, but the mixture of all of these cultures coming to this land, remember, they were coming not because they liked the Machu Picchu, but they came because, I mean, there's a lot of gold and silver here. And yeah, so that is a part of why is it that we have so much influence from many countries around the world, and we had just like added to our heritage, and we had made a new folklore and a new projection of who we are, with a new identity, a neo-identity, let's call it this way. But anyways, syncretism is one of the main parts of it, because remember, in Peru, it's over than 90% of people here is Catholic, quite conservative. So it goes hand to hand with what is the leftovers of a colonization.